Hey everybody, welcome back, and if this is your first time here, welcome. Today I'm going to go over two different things. Number one is adding sound packs to your module, and that includes most Roland modules, Alesis, and the Pearl Mimic Pro. Number two is how and why to use copy and paste or copy and exchange inside your module, not only for full kits but for pieces of kits. In that segment, I'm going to specifically talk about only Roland modules because that's all I've ever used as far as using copy and paste. I've not owned Alesis and I've not owned a Mimic. I'm going to guess that they allow you to do this, but again, I don't know. So these two go hand in hand, and I'll explain that later. Together, these are two of the most powerful tools that an eDrummer can use to develop and create your sounds out of your module. So first, let's go over what is a sound pack. A sound pack is really kind of one of two things. It's either a bunch of settings using all of the sounds that are already built into your module, or it's a combination of settings plus some extra samples that you can download and install into your module. And the four that I'm talking about today are from Vexpressions. I'll refer to them as Vex, eDrum Workshop, Drum Tech, and you can get some sound packs from Roland Cloud. I use all four. The next part of it is sort of the why. Why do I want to use a sound pack? And the answer is simple. I'm not an engineer. I'm a drummer. I like to spend my time, playing, and I want to be able to call up the kits that inspire me quickly. And by adding sound packs, what I'm basically doing is I'm hiring somebody else, an engineer, to go in and do all of the tweaking inside of the module. That to me is priceless, and I've learned over the years, probably one of the best investments I've ever made in my modules. Secondly, is by using those sound packs, it teaches you how to edit. It did this for me. So what I did was, by loading in the sound packs, you can go into the menus and submenus and see exactly how they do it. And that's a phenomenal and easy way for you to learn the difference of all of the different things that a module like a 50, 71 can actually do. And also using copy and paste, which I'll get into later, on how to craft pieces together to create my own kits. So think of it this way. Let's say you own a beautiful acoustic drum set and hand-picked cymbals, and you go into a really great studio. And you have the kit tuned up and it's sounding great. That's your job. Your job is to bring that kit in there, get it to sound great, you're playing, etc. The next part of it is the engineer. And, I know some of this stuff, but I'm not an expert on that. As I said, I'm a drummer, I'm not an engineer. The engineer at that point is the one that chooses the mics and chooses the placement. And then they understand all of the gear that it takes to turn your acoustic kit into that awesome sound, that awesome recorded sound. Which mic preamps to use, how to use EQ, compression, how to add or take away ambience, how to really change the tone and character of the drums. That's what a sound pack does. So now imagine with these sound packs, you have all of these pristine type of kits in your module, and you have all of this palette of sounds to then choose from. So by using copy and paste, you can bring these kits into the module that you have today, and you can use parts of those kits to layer into other kits that you like to bring those up a notch. So the other thing to consider is this, price and value. You can get sound packs for as little as $30, $50, $80. And again, these investments, these are small investments that completely change the tonal character of your module. So let me give you a little bit of context. I started playing V drums in the late 90s, TD10, TD20, etc. The TD30 came out around 2012, and by then I had a good 15 years under my belt, and I had owned a few modules, not only the flagships, but a few mid-tier as well too. And I thought I knew what I was doing as far as modeling sounds. Wrong. The other thing is, after all of this time, I started to become aware of sound packs, but quite frankly, I was a bit afraid of, it looked complicated to me. And I had invested so much money into my set that the last thing I wanted to do was, just mess it up. And, quite frankly, this is kind of a weird thought because I come from a technology background and I'm very well versed in, working with computers, etc. So I was afraid, and I couldn't have been more wrong. So wrong number two. If you go to their sites, they'll walk you through exactly step by step how to install it. I remember distinctly when I bought my first Vex pack for my TD30. TD30 was, as I've said before, is one of my favorite modules I've ever owned. But I put the Vex pack in and my head literally exploded. I remember sending a note to Alan Miller, who is the engineer in Vex that created that pack, and said, my mind was completely blown apart. I could not believe how the module came to life. The sounds that was in this thing was just mind-blowing. And I thought that I had the TD30 running really well, and I learned very quickly that I had a whole long way to go. So let's talk about sort of next steps. Now, I owned a TD30, then the 50 came out in 2016, and I sold my 30 and bought my 50. Now, when you own sound packs or do all of the modeling in your module, unfortunately, when you get rid of that module, you lose all those sounds, all those kits, all of that work that you've done. And now I had the TD50, and I had lost all my TD30 kits. So same thing happened when the TD50X expansion came out. This time I was smart. So what I did was I knew I was going to lose all my TD50 kits. So what I did was I just pulled out a notepad and I went into some of my favorite kits and I wrote down the settings on some of my favorite kits, my Vex kits, inside the 50. So I now had that. So when I installed the 50X upgrade, I was then able to go in and sort of recreate some of my favorite kits from the ground up. Actually, I still own my 50X. It's over here. I have 6 sound packs in that. I'll talk about that in a few minutes about how I use it. When I bought the 71, so I now have the 71 and I have it MIDI them together, and that's how I run that. My 71 also has 2 sound packs. As of the making of this video, there are no third-party sound packs available for the 71, but Roland Cloud has a handful that I've found to be really cool. So I've been using sound packs for about 12 years now. As I said, I started with the TD30, but I've also put them into the 50, the 50X. I have owned a 17, I've owned a 25, so I've owned a few, and I'm very well versed as far as using sound packs at this point. One thing to note is, even with these other sound packs, almost all the time I will load them and then I'll do my own editing on them. So for instance, drum techs packs, or the pack that I have, in the tom, they'll have a tom sound on the head, but they'll have a second sound on the rim, which is great, but it's not how I play. So let's say they have a cowbell on this tom, or they have a shaker, or they have a hi-hat, and that's cool. It's just not how I play. So I'll tend to go in and change the sounds around. This is, in my mind, the most critical thing you can do. So I go to Roland's site, I go to the module, I go to support, and I download to my desktop PDFs of all of the things that Roland has on their site, the owner's manual, the data list, etc. And the reason I do that is it's super simple to just pull up the PDF and use the search function and just say, okay, how do I find copy and paste? And you'll get there in a second. So trying to find out, how do I use set list? And trust me, over the years, do I read the entire owner's manual? No, but I'll often go through it and I'll look for things as I move along with that module. I'll constantly refer back to it because I'll learn things and go, oh, I didn't know it did that. So let's move on to copy paste and copy exchange. So in Roland, the 71, the 50, the 50X, the 27, and the TM6 Pro all have pretty extensive copy, paste, copy exchange, both for an individual kit, an individual piece of a kit, or a group. So if I wanted to copy, let's say, a whole cymbal pack, I could do that. If I wanted to copy all of my toms at once, I could do that. The 17, I believe, has copy kit function only, not the individual pieces. I may be wrong, but I think that's my memory. I did own a 17. As I said, I've not owned the Pro Mimic Pro or any Elisa, so I can't speak to what their copy functions are. So if I walk it through quickly, I'm looking at my 50X. It's pretty easy. You just hold the shift button down. So if I hold shift and SD card, it pulls up kit, pad instrument, instrument set, and set list. Set list is something that I don't use because I don't use my kit live, but set list is a great way for you to create literally set lists that say, okay, for song number 1, I need kit number 32, song number 2, I need kit 61, etc., etc. On the 71, it's a little bit different. It's the same basic thing, but it's you get to it differently. Hold the shift button and you hold the backup key, and that brings up a whole different menu. Again, kit, instrument, instrument set, etc. So here's where copy paste, copy exchange really comes in handy. For me, I want as many different types of kits on my module at any one point in time that I can possibly get. I want a combination of stock kits, stock meaning kits that I like the base of, but then I've added other pieces to it. And then I want expansion pack kits specifically for that type of music that I'm playing. But, by using copy, paste, and exchange, I can move things around and I can put pieces together. Oftentimes I'll take a stock kit and I'll take, let's say, an eDrum workshop snare that I love, and I'll add that snare into the stock kit, and all of a sudden that kit takes on a whole new flavor. Now keep in mind, when you move a piece of the kit, there's a way, as you do the pad instrument, for instance, I'm going to copy all of the effects that go onto it, etc. I'm going to copy the sound, I'm going to copy the effects, I'm going to copy the layering, I'm copying all of that. I can pick and choose what I want. I typically, if I like that sound, I copy it all and I move it over. But when you move it over to the new kit, sometimes it doesn't sound the same. And the reason for that is the individual pad itself has effects and ambience, etc. on it, but the kit may also have its own set of effects that are on the kit, or the ambience that's on the kit, where the kit is located as far as where it was recorded. And that doesn't move. Only the piece moves. So just something to keep in mind. So here's where I go sort of above and beyond. This is just what I found to be most useful, especially as I start adding sound packs into my modules. So what I do is I'll use copy, paste, copy, exchange, and I'll move kits around so that way I can open up space. I don't delete kits, I just want to realign them. So let's say I'm working on a stock 71, just because this is the latest one I have. So what I'll do is I'll instantly know, okay, I want to have all my rock kits together, and I want to have my muffled kits together, I want to have my jazz kits together, my hip-hop, bop type kits together, my electronic kits. I want to have all of those together. So typically, let's say if you're working on the 50X and it has 100 kits, you may have 70 kits and you have 30 empty user slots. What I'll do is I'll start moving kits into other areas. So for instance, I'll say, okay, I'm just going to move all my jazz kits starting on kit number 90, and I'll go through and pick and choose all my jazz kits. And by using copy and exchange, if let's say my first jazz kit, I'm just making this up, is on kit number 14, and my first user kit is 71, let's say, but I want to move my jazz kits to 90, all I do is choose my jazz kit number 14. Okay, so that's the kit that I want to copy, and then I'm looking at the other kit and I choose kit number 90, which is a user kit, and then instead of hitting copy, I hit exchange, and by that all it does is it moves them, and I now have a user kit down into the low number, and I have my first jazz kit, and I do that to move all my jazz kits. So the other thing I'll do is when I'm copying and moving kits around, I'll try to, I try to take note of it and say, okay, these are some base kits, and I found something very useful where I really like the way this kit sounds, but I know I'm probably going to tweak something. So what I'll do is when I'm moving kits around, I'll leave a blank user spot next to it. So as an example, let's say I have an acoustic kit that I've already done all kinds of editing to it, and I have it set up as kit number 1. I leave kit number 2 open as a user slot. Then what I'll do is I'll copy kit number 1 into number 2, and then by using the name function in the module, I will rename kit number 1 acoustic with a subname high snare, and number 2 acoustic low snare. And what I'll do is literally either change the snare out altogether or just go in and edit it, so that way I have the same exact kit set up as kit number 1 and 2, high snare, low snare. I'll often do that where I'll leave the kit as is and do the same thing with toms. So I'll have kit number 1 set up with more of a high, piercing, cutting set of toms, and kit number 2 is the same exact kit with another set of toms that I got from another kit that are fat and round. So by doing this, these kits now have that A/B. So kind of a cool trick. So I've now set up all of my kits and they're all moved. I don't delete any of the kits. What I'll do is I'll do a backup. And again, refer to your owner's manual how to do that. Really simple to do. I own a bunch of backups and it's really smart. I'll talk about that in a second. So you do a backup and now I consider, okay, that's my home base. Now I'm talking specifically about the 50X. When I have a sound pack, so if I get a Vex pack and that pack has 70 kits, it's going in it and I install it, it's going to overwrite my entire module. So I now have a backup of home base, and I put that aside and I install the new sound pack that I have. Now what I'll do is I'll spend time with that sound pack and I'll go through and listen to each one of the kits individually. And sometimes, depending upon the sound pack you got, maybe there's a set of saying, okay, here's a cymbal pack, etc. Those are really cool. I'll tend to put those, up number 98, 99, and 100 because I use those and paste those into other kits. But I now go through and then I pick and choose and I'll go through the data list of that pack that I bought. And I'll say, okay, there's a lot of kits there that sound similar to each other. Of course, to somebody else's ear, you can clearly hear the differences, but I'm thinking this sounds close enough to this. So I pick and choose the ones that I really want. So now I have those and I have that listed out. So I've written out all of my favorites and I've already gone through in my module. Now I want to go back, and what I do is I reinstall my home base setup. Now that backup has all of my original kits. Same thing, I'll go through and write out a list of the ones, okay, which ones do I want of this? And then what I'll do is I will cut and paste and copy and paste and copy and exchange. And what I'll do is I will delete other kits by adding in, I'll actually overwrite kits on that home base setup, and I'll put user kits in those places. Then what I'll do is move those around. So let's say I want all my stock kits to be kit number 1 through 40. So now I have all of my Roland stock kits, including all of my edits, all together. And again, I'm still trying to I want all my Roland stock jazz kits together, my Roland stock rock kits together, funk, etc. Then what I do, I now have that. I create a backup. That's backup number 2. That says it's my home base module minus the kits that I don't want or need right now. Backup number 1, if I name it backup number 1, that's all my kits. Backup number 2 is my revised set of a condensed list. Then I take my Vex expansion pack, I put that in, then use your owner's manual, and you're able to, by using your SD card, you're able to either choose, do I want to load the entire pack back in, or do I want to load specific kits? And that's a pretty cool function. I believe you can do that on a 27 as well. You can certainly do it on the 50 and 50X. The 71 is a little bit different of a platform. You're able to, when you download packs, that's a whole different thing, how it goes into a rack, and then you take those kits and you can move them where you want. But my point here is, using your SD card, you have the sound pack, you have your other module, so you have your base new module, and you have, let's say, Roland kits number 1 through 40. I can put the SD card in and I can choose the kits. Now I take the list that I have from and I say, okay, I wanted these specific kits. Now I'll put Vex kits, let's say number 50 through 80. And now I know I have my favorite Vex kits all together. Same thing, I have my favorite Vex jazz kits, etc., etc., etc. So I have that. And because I have 6 different sound packs in my 50X, what I've done is I have my Roland kits together, my eDrum workshop kits together, my drum tech, my Vex kits, and they're all done by genre. So again, a bit of an overkill, but I have so many different sounds. I just know immediately when I'm looking for a sound, oh, I want to try this. And I know exactly where it is as far as at least in that range. And over time, you'll just get so used to doing that. So this is a lot and it's excessive. If I really want to get into detail, years ago, when I really started doing this, it got so convoluted that I was using an Excel spreadsheet and I would literally write it all out and I would map it out. Okay, I want to move this and this and this. And that was one way. That was probably, that's a complete overkill, but it actually worked really well for me. Again, a lot of time and effort that goes into that, but in the long run, when you have a ton of kits, it's really good in order to keep track of which kits you like. So I talked about this before too, but again, one of the key things here is the copy and paste pieces. So if I take a snare and add it to some other kit, you can craft all kinds of your own kits by doing this. So I hope this information helps you. I know I went over a lot today, but as I said at the beginning, 2 of the most important things to me, or 2 of the most beneficial things you can do as being a flagship owner of a module are, the sound packs and this copy paste, copy exchange function. As always, thanks for watching. Hit me up in the comments with any questions below, and thanks. Have a great one.